Prem review. It's late. It's late, literally, and this will be late, but we've got FA Cup weekend, so don't worry about it. It's all fine. We're also getting to a nice point of the season. Almost everyone's got their 20 games under their belt, so we can realistically say what's likely and what isn't, barring some, strange changes in form. I did a half point of the season appreciation live on stream. That should be out on YouTube soon, where you can have a look and see how good my predictions were and how I measure up against some of these other YouTubers out there. Spoiler, they all talk bollocks. But anyway, definitely not me. But anyway, yes, let's just dive right into it because there's a big topic I want to talk about, perhaps even more than the football itself. Liverpool and Chelsea played out a 0-0 draw that isn't going to be remembered for much, except probably the debut of Mudryk, the new Chelsea signing. He actually looked to be real quality in this game, looked dangerous every time he got the ball, and, look, at the end of the day, he came on as a sub. He's not match fit, and he clearly proved he's Premier League caliber. Now, detractors of Liverpool might say, listen, you're only playing Liverpool. They ain't shit this season, but he was a real nightmare. He could have almost won the game for Chelsea. And other than that, probably the only other thing that stands out is, how overall embarrassing Gakpo was as a continued, signing storyline. You've really got to wonder about his long-term credentials at Liverpool and at the highest level. Definitely makes me wonder about whether or not that was money well spent. But anyway, this was a 0-0 game. It was a clean sheet. There was classic. All the Liverpool problems were there. They really lack, intensity, and they lacked being clinical. Alisson was probably their best player on the pitch. They've got real issues, and of course now they're also defensively suspect on top. Still waiting for Van Dijk to come back. He wasn't in this game. So, problems for Liverpool. They're not going to get Champions League football this season. And Chelsea, obviously, Graham Potter, I don't know what's going on. Graham Potter is a guy who, when he was at Brighton, obviously they were an incredibly well-scouted team. They found talent from all over the world, and they implemented it. And they've, even now without Potter, they are just, they're on course to getting to Europe out of nowhere and doing it, playing really good, attractive football, mixing it up with the big boys. Got some fantastic players. Obviously, people are starting to come in and poach them. At the time of recording this, there's talk that Caicedo might be going. Obviously, Trossard's already gone. But I don't think it's going to matter too much. They really seem to have an incredible scouting program. It doesn't matter who your gaffer is at the end of the day. If you can turn up these diamonds in the rough consistently, your football team is either at the worst going to be able to sell them for money, so you're always going to be financially relevant in a league where small market teams like Brighton might not always have that luxury, or you're going to have a manager that can make all the pieces work for you, even when you maybe do lose one or two parts of those pieces. And so, anyway, Potter moving to Chelsea, this is madness what's going on at Chelsea right now. Listen, I've said this a lot down the years. People talk about spending killing the game, but I've said it a lot down the years that, look, you can spend money and not buy success. Remember, like Everton, since Mashiri come in, they've spent $500 million, and they're bottom of the league. They're shit. For me, I thought it was funny. Loads of people were saying, Everton don't have one of the worst squads in the Prem. No, they absolutely do. They definitely do. But anyway, you can't buy success. There's got to be rhyme or reason to the spending. So the money gives you a huge advantage, yes, but you've still got to know where to spend it. And I'm starting to question what's going on at Chelsea right now. This transfer window that's about to close, it's just been marred by every single big deal, every single person that is meant to be moving to a club. It always goes, they're linked with Arsenal and Chelsea, linked with Tottenham and Chelsea, linked with Newcastle and Chelsea. Every fucker's linked with Chelsea. And why is every fucker linked with Chelsea? Because they are in this crazy world where they will spend 50, 60 million on a player just to maybe even stop the other team having it. They're doing this thing where they're signing them to these super long contracts, as they did with Mudryk, 8-year long contracts on unproven players or, big salary players. And they're doing that so they can get around the financial fair play rules. Well, financial fair play rules are going to change as a result of this loophole. And the funny thing was, I was talking about it with a friend the other day, and they said, why has no one ever thought to do the 8-year contract loophole before? And I'm like, because you don't contract a player for their entire career to have guaranteed money with huge insane bonus structures and everything else. That's how you just end up with a bunch of bullshit dead weight in your squad and a manager who's being told you got to sell before you can buy. It doesn't bode well for the future if any of these signings don't work out. And look, Mudryk, based on the 40 minutes or whatever I saw him play, let's just be real here. The spending from Chelsea this season and in this transfer window has been ridiculous. We've got Mudryk at the top of that, 88.5 million. He's coming from Shakhtar Donetsk. He's never played outside of the Ukraine. So, okay, fine. Wesley Fofana, 75 mil. Immediate injury, by the way. And, is he a 75 mil caliber defender? Maybe. I mean, we live in a world where Harry Maguire is like the most expensive defender in the world, so maybe whatever, right? But then you've got Cucurella. Cucurella has just looked absolutely lost outside of the Brighton structure. He was a standout player at Brighton when, obviously, Chelsea brought him in. I don't know if they did it ahead of knowing Potter was going to jump. 60 mil on him looks like crazy money, frankly. He's looked a shell of himself. Doesn't have it going forward. Certainly doesn't have it defensively coming backwards, so... Raheem Sterling, seen a lot of fans be critical of Raheem Sterling. Does look like with this new wave of signings, by the way, Raheem Sterling at £47.5 million. He's surplus to requirements, by the way. He looks to be the player that I would naturally phase out, because all they've signed, as you're about to notice, is fucking wingers, midfielders. They need a striker like the deserts need the fucking rain, and Chelsea will not sign them. You had, obviously, Koulibaly as well, 33 mil. Badiashile, 35 mil. Chukwuemeka from Villa, 20 mil. Aubameyang was 11 mil. They've signed... obviously, João Felix, red card on his fucking debut. That was ridiculous. João Felix, by the way, another winger they don't need, signs an extension with Atletico Madrid and says he'll come and play in London for the rest of the season. But 10 mil. 10 mil, just for a loan. No prospect of buying him or nothing. I'm missing out other people. And by the way, it's not even over. It's not even over at the time of recording this. They are going to keep making these signings. They are heading towards $500 million spent this season. Not overall, not from ownership, $500 million in a season. And none of it makes any sense. None of it makes any sense to me. The key players that make Chelsea tick, they're not buying cover or replacements for them long term. Forwards... There's not one clinical goal scorer in the Chelsea squad if you consider that Aubameyang doesn't give a fuck anymore, doesn't want to be there and won't be there. Won't play again this season. They're going to find some formation where he just doesn't get it, it just doesn't work for him. It's ridiculous, and they've turned down opportunities to sign actual clinical proven goal scorers that are on the market and being talked about. Anyway, point being, the Chelsea spending this season is just embarrassing. It's made Chelsea fans insufferable. They think they're entitled to sign any player that they want. And at the end of the day, I can't believe Graham Potter is signing off on this as a manager. Listen, it's great to have this luxury buffet of players, right? But what does Graham Potter want? I can't believe he's so out of sorts over there. He's like, well, we definitely need to be thinking about what happens with Kante when he gets injured, because that's a huge problem. Or we definitely need a guy who can put it in the back of the net. What's the point of having all this incredible flair, skill, all this great service, if we don't have someone who can bang it in? And, at the end of the day, Graham Potter knows what he's doing. I rate him as a manager, but I think he's pussied out here. I think he needed to be stronger with the board. These all feel like marquee signings being made by an owner who wants all of the clout and all of the flair. And he's just playing fucking football manager in his own world. And it's like some shit Galacticos project. It's none of these players are even the best in show in their respective positions in world football. I think about a player like Vlahovic being talked about being signed. Arsenal heavily linked with him again, I think, this transfer window, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. But, I think about a player like that just being out there, and it's Chelsea, and no, instead we're gonna spend 80 million on wingers. over and over and over again until we have like 10 wingers. It's just ridiculous, but whatever. I mean, they'll find out the hard way because they're going to have spent $500 million in the season and they are going to struggle to get into Europa. I'll call that now. It'll go down as one of the biggest financial follies ever in Premier League history this season, spending for Chelsea. Doesn't matter what they do. So anyway, we just shelve all of that. Whatever. It is what it is. Two giants who are on hard times. I'll back Liverpool to get out of it without having to spend that type of money over Chelsea getting out of it with this type of money now. And trust me, I'll be willing it as well. This kind of spending, sickening for the game. Anyway, West Ham Everton is the big game this week. A must-win game for both teams. We talked about it. Everton are down there. They're joint bottom. West Ham falling into the bottom three. Definitely need to get some wins. Big-name players really failing. And so, we all saw it. Frank Lampard goes there. He's shaking like a shitting dog, shaking hands with the fans. They're telling them it's all right. It's definitely not all right, as we're about to get to. And, everyone wants the board sacked. And then they lose 2-0 to West Ham. A very lackluster West Ham they've been this season. But they looked absolutely gangbusters against Everton because Everton are clueless and Frank Lampard's clueless. And so, at the end of the day, they were calling this match El Sacchio going in because, there was talk about maybe Moyes getting sacked if they lost and Everton jumped above them and kept West Ham in the bottom three. I don't think Moyes' job is under any risk right now. I don't know how, but it doesn't seem to be. And so Bowen come to life. He's got 2 goals. But, I mean, Everton were just lost. Think about this. This is a game where Everton have almost 70% possession in this game. They have almost 70% possession in a game against the beleaguered West Ham side that struggled. They generate 2 shots on target the entire game, right? And probably Everton's best player is Pickford. He made a bunch of crucial saves. I don't rate Pickford. I think Ten Hag thinking Pickford's the man to replace De Gea. I don't like it. I think Pickford's one of those goalkeepers that looks better because he's playing in a terrible team, and also because he's England's number one. And you'll always be forgiven if you're England's number one. You can get away with murder. You can be mediocre as fuck if you're a goalkeeper, but you play for England. But Jarrod Bowen was just lively. I mean, he was at it this game. There's just nothing to talk about on the Everton side of things. I mean, this was like Antonio's best game all season. Not a surprise. There's talk about him leaving, so he's either playing for a fucking contract or he's out. Ings has come in to West Ham. He was, I don't rate Ings either, frankly, but Ings looked lively in this game. Even Rice just looked like he was playing against Everton, so everybody just looked really, really good in this game. You're like, oh, West Ham are banging on for Europe, yeah, and then you look at the table. Jarrod Bowen, buying away his best game this season, and man of the match, and 2 goals to show for it, but it could have been a lot more, could have been worse for Everton if it wasn't for the heroics of Pickford. And obviously this leads on to what we all expected to happen. It was El Sacchio, and Lampard got sacked. Now, a lot of people in the press are saying, oh, it's a shame. I think it was Danny Murphy on TalkSport was saying he refused to say if Gerrard and Lampard were Premier League failures. So I'll do it for you, Danny, mate. They're absolutely Premier League failures. They've took on jobs that, yes, were poison chalices, but equally, there's all upside. You go to a Villa, it's all upside. You go to an Everton, it's all upside. Especially this Everton. All you have to do is have a plan, have an idea, get the players on side, and just be tactically astute. We talked about the Southampton game, how he doesn't put anyone on Ward-Prowse in that game, and it's like it's criminal and it cost them. And obviously in West Ham, there just wasn't anything going on. There just wasn't. It was like they were just flat. No one up for it. No drive. No fire. I mean, the bottom thing you have to do as a manager is like inspire the troops. And the point is, Lampard's very impressive because you think about, oh wow, I'm playing for one of the England greats. But when you listen to him, he's just a melt. Like, I mean, that's just the sad reality of it. He was a good player who has a commanding presence, but once he opens his mouth, the illusion is fucking shattered. And even I've felt that. I've felt that acutely, and I'm not in no dressing room with him. I'm not out there, facing like a cauldron of hate from my own fans every week and having to be motivated when I know, irrespective of whether or not the team stays up, I can just leave because my reputation somehow is going to be intact because players always get away with one. So Lampard goes, and now everyone's talking about who's going to replace him. And I've said multiple times, If you appoint Sean Dyche, they will stay up. I feel that way, unequivocally. Even with the job he's got to do here on the table. Bournemouth are slipping down the table. Leicester are still dog shit for me. Wolves have got it all to do. Southampton are the rock bottom and look out of ideas. All the cup runs in the world aren't going to change that. So I think definitely Sean Dyche can do a number here. And what's mad is, I don't know if anyone, obviously I'm joking, no one watches this, but I don't know if anyone is watching it from over in that neck of the woods, but Mashiri publicly said Sean Dyche was not a target, and lo and behold, recording this now, boom, he's the favourite, he's the front runner, Sean Dyche. So I don't know what's changed, I don't know what's gone on, but let me tell you, you might not be inspired by Sean Dyche, although he's got players, I think there's like 2 or 3 players who played for him at Burnley, who are going to be very glad he's here. But you don't have to be inspired by Sean Dyche. He doesn't have a playing career like Lampard, right? But here's what he does do, and anyone who's ever listened to the man talk knows this. He can spoil a game. He can neutralise threats. He can play on the counter. He can break a game down to its constituent elements and turn losses into draws and the occasional draw into wins, which when you're in a relegation dogfight, that's what it's all about. Every point is worth its weight in gold. And he knows how to do that. He did it for ages with Burnley. I know a lot of people are saying, yeah, but he also got Burnley took down. He worked miracles at Burnley, guys. The resources they had, the squad he assembled, and in the end, I've said it, I think the players massively let him down that season. That was a Burnley squad capable of staying in the Prem. And look, they sold off loads of its constituent parts, and obviously now Company is going to bring them straight back up with some of them, but certainly hardly any compared to the side that went down. There was a solid core there for Burnley, and they're a better team than the Championship for sure. So maybe it was just a change of personnel was needed. Maybe the love affair had wore out. Maybe Maybe Dyche got complacent. Maybe the players got complacent. I don't know. Here's what I do know. Every time I've listened to him talk tactically on podcasts, on those YouTube videos he does, he knows what the fuck he's talking about. And like, I'm listening to him and I'm going, yeah, that makes sense. These concepts make sense. If you apply this here, it's going to make sense. And he's going to have players at Everton that have been criminally underutilised by Lampard. Onana, prime example, should be one of the stars of the show, doesn't even seem to have a game plan when he's out there. And people are going, he looks raw, give him something to do. He'll play some vile football, Sean Dyche, right? If you're an Everton fan, it's going to be rough. It's going to be bad. It's going to be a flat back 4, right, with Cody and Tarkowski in there. And you're going to have Onana and Iwobi probably playing defensive. Your one outlet's going to be like Gray, up front. It's going to be bad. It's going to suck balls. It's going to, it's not going to be fun to watch, but it's going to be 0-0s and 1-1s and occasionally a 1-0, and you'll only lose 1-0, and your goal difference is going to creep up because your goal difference is the best out of all of the teams down there. You're on -13. It might come down to goal difference for Everton. Real talk. So this is the dream move. I hope it 100% happens. If it happens, I am willing to retract everything I've ever said about Everton being the ones to go down this season. I will retract it. I think Sean Dyche gets you out of there. I've been right on all my fraud watches. I had Gerrard, fraud watch, he's gone. Lampard, fraud watch, he's gone. Rodgers, fraud watch this space. So, and I'm telling you, Sean Dyche is mustard and is going to do a job for you, no doubt in my mind. There wasn't really a lot of, huge talking points this week, in my opinion. There's one game I'll just get out. It's Palace versus Newcastle United. Newcastle managed to sort of stay in that top 4 by getting a draw, but it was a dour game, one of the worst games of football I've seen all season. That classic mid-table, mediocrity grind out from Palace. But in the end, Palace probably had the better chances. Pope really earned his salary. But, our defence, I've said it all, Pog. I cannot fucking undersell how good this defence is. Trippier, Burnham, Botman, and even, I don't like saying Shah, because he shouldn't be there for me. Nightmare about him and Lascelles. I still wake up in cold sweats thinking about them two defending. But you know what? It's Eddie Howe, and he's just done an amazing job. So I'll take grinding out draws here. Every point we get at this stage, every time we're not losing, and keep in mind, it's like 15 top-flight games unbeaten. It's a club record. We don't lose games. and we're in with a good shout with like Tottenham falling off, Liverpool falling off, Chelsea falling off. We're in with a good shout of getting Champions League football from nowhere. 1 year into this sports washing project with our Saudi owners. So, it's a 0-0, whatever. Shut the fuck up about it. Right, Arsenal, the 3-2. Best game. A throwback. A literal throwback game. Throwback to the fucking glory days of the Premier League when Arsenal versus United made you get out of bed hungover on an afternoon. Like, you'd be like, okay, fine. Like, I don't even support either of these teams, but you are going to see a game of football. You are going to see, fucking Martin Keown give Van Nistelrooy a dig in the ribs. You're going to see Roy Keane and Patrick Vieira leather the shit out of each other. You're going to see Tony Adams make incredible tackles on his broken legs with no knees. Like, you're going to see world-class saves, world-class shots. You're going to see passion and fire. And you haven't really been able to say that out an Arsenal United game for a while, have you? I mean, it's been about the big rivalry in the league is City and Liverpool. It tells you everything you need to know about the sign of the times. Well, listen, this was the fucking throwback game. I loved this game. It was so good. It was if this had finished a draw, no one could complain. Arsenal stole it 3-2 right at the death, and it's just a continuation of all the points we've been talking about. Ten Hag has this team firing, and he was super unlucky this game. No Casemiro. Casemiro plays, I don't know, because I think when you have Eriksen and players like Fred, or he's in there with Fernandez or something, or McTominay, God forbid, in the centre. It's just not the same. And Eriksen cannot boss up midfield by himself. He cannot take over the game by himself. Casemiro and Eriksen can do your things, and so it was unfortunate he wasn't in this game. But Rashford, absolute, banging goal, in great form, surpassed anything I thought he would do. Remember, I've recorded my voice saying Rashford's not good enough for United. I still sort of believe it in my heart of hearts, but the way he's playing right now, it's really good. Martinez with a header, rare mistake. Ramsdale come out, Martinez got the header on there, and that's one of the things. Ramsdale's been a bit too prone for me to come out and command the box. It's nice. It's nice when it works. It's nice when you're confident. But, for, one of those. But in the end, Nketiah's got 2 goals. He's won it in the 90th minute. What have we been talking about? The measure of Arsenal's season is what can Nketiah do compared to Jesus. And I think Nketiah has been great in the box, great at holding it up. He's getting his poaching goals. He misses chances, sure. This is a team that creates chances. It's not as bad because Arsenal have a midfield that are putting away goals. But Nketiah has put away his chances for the most part, and you gotta respect it. The only weakness in Nketiah's game compared to like a Jesus is just when he comes out the box and has to come deep and get the ball. He can't beat people. He's not a dribbler. He's not that kind of guy. There's no guile or craft to him. When he comes deep in the midfield, get ahead of him, he looks out of sorts big time. Whereas Jesus, he's in his fucking element. So, it's one of those. It's the fact that Nketiah has had to learn to swim by just being thrown into the deep end and replacing a fucking Brazilian international Premier League winner, top goal scorer at the time. And he's done as well as he's done, and he's winning games like this. You got to give it to Nketiah. But, any other game, a guy who gets you 2 goals and a win over a hotly contested Man United game, usually he's the man of the match, right? Well, fucking hell. I tell you, I've been talking about Saka for years. Obviously, again, Davey, the Canadian CSGO player, big Arsenal fan. We talk about it all the time. We've been talking about Saka ever since he broke through into the team and how good he was. This guy goes from strength to strength. I mean, it's not even just about the ridiculous goal he scored. You can maybe argue De Gea was caught flat-footed, but he tortured Luke Shaw. I mean, he tortured him. Luke Shaw was like, he just didn't know whether to fucking shit or piss. He was absolutely just melted. Now, I've said Luke Shaw comes in for a lot of criticism that sometimes it's unwarranted. And trust me, I'm not criticising Luke Shaw for this game. Saka was unplayable. Like, Every time Saka picked up the ball deep and Luke Shaw come out to meet him, he could beat him and play off a pass or get ahead of him. He could use pace, use his craft to get past him. If Shaw tried to play like space and not let him into it, it was too much. He could cut inside and take a shot. He did it. It wasn't just the goal. He did it on a few occasions. Luke Shaw could do nothing against him, and even when they were trying to double up and find a solution, there was just nothing you could do. Saka absolutely unplayable, imperious. Just one of the best English players, probably I've seen in a long, long time. I mean, I really mean that, and it's frightening to think that this guy's, going to go on and develop. I've said before, the current set of England internationals, not one of them would walk into an all-time England 11, and that remains true. It remains true even here, but I'm telling you, if anyone's going to do it, if anyone's going to break that up, man, it's this guy. Like, he's fucking unreal, and, there was loads to like about Arsenal in this game. Manchester United, without Casemiro, there wasn't a destroyer in the midfield. So Odegaard was in his element, Martinelli's in his element, Zinchenko's doing his shit at the back and stepping in. Xhaka, the absolute giga chad. It was a great performance. But United probably did enough where they're thinking we're getting a draw here, and that's a big sign of the times. I thought. I want to just add as well, Weghorst came into this game, and I know people might be back and forth on Weghorst. He was coming back and helping out with defending, which they absolutely had to do because they were getting battered in the midfield and without Casemiro. And Weghorst, I thought, put in a great shift. And he will get goals. He will get goals that matter this season, no doubt about it. Spurs managed to break down Fulham. It was only 1-0. It wasn't a great game of football. Fulham have looked a little bit more mortal these last few games. Still playing very well, very hard to break down. But Kane's goal, they gave him just a bit too much space. Classic edge of the box. He's turning, right foot curling into the bottom corner. Keeper not able to get close to it. And that's vital for Spurs. Where Spurs were in terms of their form and chasing down that fourth spot, they were really in a position where you're like, this is gonna drift away from them. They're gonna get found out, But they lost to City, they lost to Arsenal, they lost to Villa. It was like, yeah, okay, Spurs are adrift and at sea. So they did need this, and I think going to Fulham and getting a win there these days is a big deal. I think they're a very tough team, especially in their own backyard to go and play against. So Tottenham are like that. Harry Kane with another record probably that day, and that is what it is. But ultimately, it starts to get interesting now. These are the key games. These are the crucial ones that are coming up. The rest of this week was a bit yawn. But we've got some big games round the corner. City were able to beat Wolves 3-0, It was a hat-trick. Classic Haaland hat-trick, just golden boot guaranteed. Already got more goals now than the last winner's golden boot scorer, and still got half the season to go. Insane. But yeah, I kind of do feel where everything is set, United gonna get top 4, I feel, is a thing. These are like my halfway point predictions. United to get top 4, maybe Newcastle drop off and Tottenham could steal it. I don't think Chelsea are back in. They're 10 points adrift from 4 now, and now Graham Potter's got to figure out this impossible team of like wingers and defenders, and Aubameyang, like, enjoy that. Arsenal leading from the front and leading like, you would have thought they'd been challenging for championships for the past 4 or 5 years. Hasn't been like that, but they're looking legit now. It really is their title to lose, in my opinion. And, other things I think are going to happen now that if Sean Dyche joins Everton, and that's confirmed, Everton stay up. Bournemouth, Southampton and Forest down. Maybe I put Southampton in Everton's spot. So that'll be a thing. Oh, and I definitely want Brighton to get into Europe. I mean, just killing it. Absolutely killing it with their players. So, yeah, that's it. It's a short one this time. Why not? And then I'll be back on the regular schedule once the FA Cup games are over. We'll see you for a bit more of a detailed Prem review then. Look after yourselves. Season's crazy. See you soon.